So, Leanne.
Yes, sure.
Your first appearance on the channel didn't last long because of a mistake by YouTube, which has been rectified, and here we are. We're back again, so hopefully more people get to see you this time.
Yes, I hope so. That was an abrupt, quick start and finish.
It was. Yeah, you were on the channel for about an hour.
broke the camera.
Yeah. But back by popular demand and moved to the top of the show. Leanne, good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting started on these condensed versions of quick updates. Fantastic.
Yeah. So what do you got for us this week?
Well, I'm going to run over a few things, and I know most people missed last week's one, but I'll take a quick look at King Daddy Bitcoin. We popped up like I anticipated. It had been squeezing pretty hard up there, and then we had the Coinbase listing on the NASDAQ, which I'd also said was an interesting date to watch out for. So, I don't ever say something happens because of this, but it's an interesting reference point to gauge if you're going to take a trade or not, and things to watch out for. So, we actually popped right up to the extension that I had marked out, and we revisited with a Darth Maul wick down to the breakout zone. So that was actually something I anticipated. When we have a fast pop like that, we usually revisit the breakout zone. So BTC is looking healthy to me, and the next zone for me is the 72K zone. So that's where I'm sort of targeting for the next area before a bit of a cool off and a refresher and revisit the charts again. So for me, everything looks good on BTC, and all of my charts, you'll notice in the next few that they've got songs, love letters mixed together, because I used to be a teacher, and one thing with primary school, even high school, was if you put music to things, it's just so much more fun. So I've naturally always done that with the charts. So you'll have to get used to my love letters to spur on price action.
I think the next chart we're going to look at might have a little musical interlude involved in it.
It does. It also, just for your show, Sean and Jesse, it has an accompaniment to it from a trading friend of mine, Eros, who's also a musician, and he's delightfully sung my love letter for Ethereum. So we'll take a look at that now.
You can't hurry love, you just have to wait. Love don't come easy, it's a game of gas and gway. You can't hurry love, you just have to wait and trust 2.0 upgrade. No matter how long it takes, ooh, 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 we need ETH.
Ethereum has been so frustrating for me. I mean, I scaled in just below 700, I think. I was scaling in around 400, 700. But I think it was a bit of a patience tester, to be honest, in this last zone here. And look, I don't profess to know all the technicalities about these things. That's definitely not my forte. But I was a bit frustrated with ETH, and I know it had a lot of problems with scaling. So my little love letter was to spur it on, and it seems to have done that. So we're reaching for the stars here, and my next zone for ETH is around the 2,600 mark. So I expect some sort of, resistance and pullback around here. And then our next level is the 3,000 zone. So tracking nicely in the channel. It's just been a bit slow and sluggish, but, we might see a lot stronger moves from here.
Yeah, so this is one we looked at last week, Leanne. It's sort of been meandering along a wee bit. So how's it looking at the moment?
Yes, if you weren't in a trade, I said last week, this was a nice one to look out for, because it's been consolidating really tightly in the, $1.30 to $1.50 sort of range, and it's inching up, ready to explode. So this one has been a bit of a patience tester, and one of the feelings that comes up with a chart like this for me is when you see everything else popping off, and you know 100% gains on this one and this one, and you want to FOMO into other things when something's not moving. So the emotion of the week for me has been patience, because as a trader, that's my weak point. I've been working on it for years now, and I'm pretty good now, but still I notice I get a bit antsy when things aren't moving as quickly as everything else. So patience for this one.
That might be the emotion of life for crypto.
Yes, just being patient. Don't be like Leanne and don't sell Doge before it pops off.
Oh my God.
Don't hold Doge for 2 years only to drop it, lose her patience and sell it a week before the Elon pump.
That's one hell of a pump, hey?
That was one hell of a pump, and it's still a very painful memory for me. So that is patience in point. Just stick with trades. And
you holding any dog coin, Jesse?
I used to. I got out maybe with like a couple $100 profit. I am now a holder of Hoge coin, and that's not a joke. Yeah. Okay. That's not a joke.
So, what's the feelings on patience and algo moving forward?
Just if you're in a spot position, we're up at that breakout we've got another breakout zone coming up, but I've marked in this zone here because it's where the most consolidation is happening. I kind of look at energy points, and when I see a lot of energy and momentum building, and this is ready to pop for me. Otherwise, it will consolidate in that band for a while, and the band might just get tighter. So I'll keep an eye on that one. Like I said, I'm not jumping out of that one after taking it. So we'll just sit with it and be patient.
Very good. I'm there with you. So, Leanne, just before we go to the next chart, there was one thing I just wanted to ask you briefly. How would you describe your trading style? I mean, obviously we've got sort of position traders, spot trades, swing trades. How do you typically approach the market?
I've got a few buckets. I've got obviously my HODL stash, and in terms of my trading buckets, I've got a stash that are longer swings that can last for months, and I've got swing trading that can last for weeks, and I've got a little bit of day trading scalp allocation when I get the itch and the setup is absolutely there. So I've got like three styles of trading running at the moment, and I'm favouring the longer ones at the minute because there was a time for me for a lot of day trades a few months ago, but depending on what's happening in your life and that, and I'm not interested in being attached to the computer all of the time. So for me, the longer swings at the moment are the best, and I still think there's a lot of money to be made even by taking breakouts on a lot of, the charts are just screaming with setups at the moment. So the ones that I'm just showing you, a little handful, but there's so many ready to pop, and if you're not in position, don't chase green candles. That is just like the worst thing you can do. Wait for proper setups, do a spot trade. If you're doing margin or futures or anything like that, you really, I've said this before, you need to know what you're doing. So for me, this is that'll bring us to our next chart topic, lazy trend riding. LTR, I call it. Lazy trend riding at this stage of the market is like the best, easiest thing you can do to make money. First lazy trend rider chart is for AVAX. So AVAX had a really, fast run out of the gate here. We hit up towards the $60 mark, and we've had a full sort of retracement and consolidation in this zone. And the reason I have this lovely little lady figurine is because this is, for me, the bra strap pattern, otherwise known as the W bottom. So for me, this is the bra strap pattern. And here we often have a really nice zoom and takeoff after we get this double tap of the bottom support, and then we'll head up And usually we blow straight through that resistance zone of around $54 if the trade goes according to plan. We'll break up towards the $70 mark. And most likely, we usually retest that breakout point. So when you are looking for trade setups, if you miss the breakout point, I've set an alarm here. You can see a little clock. I've set an alarm so that if I did want to take a breakout trade, you get the alert on TradingView. That's really easy to set up, and you can take it. And if you miss it, you wait for the pullback when it revisits the breakout zone. And if it doesn't revisit the breakout zone, which is also a possibility in crypto, then you just wait for another setup. So this would be one of the lazy trend riding positions that I would think is a really nice one. This one, boys and girls, is the graph, GRT. This one also had quite an explosive out of the gate through resistance in January, and it hit up to $2.80. I actually had this breakout down at the 60-cent range targeted, but I missed it. So I've been waiting for the next one. So all of this time I've been waiting. And I've set this alarm here, just also, again, if it breaks through the $2.20 range, I can look for a breakout trade on that. And then the next breakout zone is $2.80 is the official resistance here. So that is another lazy trend riding position. And we spoke about the Batman pattern last week, which is the inverse head and shoulders. So we're also getting one here for that also. So that to me is a nice, and we're holding the channel. So for me, this looks great. And if the worst case scenario is going to consolidate longer in a broader range. So for me, this is a nice spot long to take also. That's all I have today. So if you weren't in position, they're great ones to think about starting. I don't set hard stops for spot positions when the trend is your friend. At the moment, the trend is our friend. So that is a contentious issue. I think, Sean, we've spoken about that before. It depends what type of trading you're doing will determine what type of risk management you take, but I'm really not here to teach you how to do risk management. If you want to do things like that, it's really important you're in trading communities where you are taught how to do those things. And two of the groups I'm affiliated with, which is Skill Incubator with Chris Dunn and the Crypto Jungle, both groups are teaching people how to manage risk, determining their style. So really important. Down below if you need any more information.
Links below, check him out. I used to follow Chris Dunn closely and actually checked out some of his content again yesterday. He makes some really fantastic content actually.
Yeah, Chris is where I started.
On BT. Yeah. You've been taught by the best.
I've been taught by the best for nearly 4 years now. So a lot of my methodology obviously emanates from Chris. And I've also do a lot of chart setups and have aligned with the Crypto Jungle because Justin, who's otherwise known as Baloo, is in there and he does the Wyckoff strategy. So he's teaching you also at what point are you in the cycle or the trend, and you can determine your risk and when the trend is over. And that's the risk management he teaches in that group. So we'll get Baloo on to teach a little bit about that with you guys. And he's a great one to learn from. So we'll have him on the show.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
I have a thing to bring up with Leanne and while we're all here together. A lot of people who are trying to kind of pinpoint or place where these super cycles are coming and going, whether it be Bitcoin or altcoins. One thing I think a lot of people talk about and a lot of people hear about is the concept that, as Bitcoin dominance lowers, altcoins will inevitably start to go up. But I think it causes some confusion, even with myself, with a lot of people. The fact that still some altcoins go up when Bitcoin goes up and some altcoins don't. And then also just the separation of the concept of Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin price. Is Bitcoin dominance the same exact thing as Bitcoin price? Or could Bitcoin dominance go down, but the price just stay the same. I think it's a bit confusing for some people. What is your thoughts on just that whole thing, that whole concept?
Actually, when we get Baloo on, he's really great at explaining that also, so we'll get him on soon. Bitcoin dominance for me, look, when you're in spot alt positions, I'm mostly in big to mid caps. I don't do a lot of small caps. For that very reason, once Bitcoin decides to take off, alts suffer. Alts always have a reaction. And for me, if I'm holding the middle to big cap alts, they don't suffer as much and they hold their trend. Whereas the low caps, definitely, they're out of here. They forget it. So I don't like having to react to that all of the time. But I know that there's a lot of people that love their low cap gems, and I do every now and again experiment with them. But that's when my major trades are not there. So yes, Bitcoin dominance, when Bitcoin goes on a tear, alts suffer. But the big caps alts tend, once Bitcoin's had its moment and it's still hovering, the alts then start making their way up the charts also. So the big alts will fly generally to some degree once Bitcoin has stabilized in its position. But yeah, so I never worry so much if I'm in spot positions. But yeah, if you're doing margin and futures and that, and you're in alts, that's a big concern. So that's when you do have to pay absolute attention.
And would you say that it's partially partially based on the tech or something along those lines, when a certain altcoin, like for instance, we brought up last week DSLA, by certainly when I first got into it last year, it by all accounts was a super low cap gem, that as I referred to it as, and something that nobody knew about. And while it's obviously gained a lot more steam now and more people are aware of it, I would still say it's low cap and it's not very well known, and yet it tends to do well when BTC does well, and tends to go down a bit when BTC, and that kind of goes against that concept. So what do you have any idea what that might be about?
There are some coins that just love to move with Bitcoin, and they're random, and I don't have any rhyme or reason.
It's like the little fish next to the whales, they just
Yep, the krill just, swimming alongside the whale. And that's the thing, Jesse, you need to know what trade or position you're in when you hold those things. So for you, I know that was a long-term investment. But, this is where you've got to ask yourself, am I swing trading or am I investing? So if you're investing, these wild swings on the low caps are no big deal, because you've got a 6 to 12 month, 2 years, 3 years time frame, whatever that is, which brings me to something I recommend to a lot of people, is that once you get to a point where you can take your risk capital out and you can sleep at night, that if it went, back to less than 80% of its value, you're not worried because you've got your risk out. So that is something I always suggest with low caps, is take your risk capital out, then you can sleep, you can hold it as long as you fancy, and no price action phases you at all. That's my best suggestion for that. But yes, I don't know the answer to that. Why some?
I didn't either. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Sean, any idea?
Well, look, I mean, typically the market really does follow how Bitcoin's moving, and it tends to be magnitudes of that. As Leanne mentioned, Bitcoin goes down 5%, you're probably going to see the bulk of the alts go down 15%. That's how it happens. It's almost like Bitcoin mirroring a move in the S&P. S&P goes down 2%, Bitcoin goes down 5%. That correlation's still there. One thing that I think is interesting to hear both your thoughts on, I think most markets, irrelevant of the asset class, do tend to operate the same way through cycles. So, for example, in the crypto markets, you typically will see a cycle of, Bitcoin moving into the top tier alts. I think we're seeing a lot of that right now. If you look at 217, the end of the bull run was typically what was signaled by a massive takeoff in the really low cap alts. That to me is something I'm looking out for that might give us an indication of maybe the bull market winding up. I don't think we're there yet. And then the money cycles back into Bitcoin and also this time around I think into Ethereum. At least that's how I'm playing it. I'm taking the profits I've made on very speculative low cap altcoin plays. I'm leaving the principal in. If I've made money, I'm moving that money back into Bitcoin and Ethereum. At my crypto meetup the other night, the guys, none of them even had it. Well, the majority of them didn't have Bitcoin or Ethereum. They want the 100% return, the 200% return. So, obviously we don't give financial advice on this channel, but the way I'm playing it is, and as I said to these guys, I've moved the bulk of my holdings into Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I'm making better gains on them than I would speculating on alts, where you can be left with your pants down if the market moves on you, having to hold them for a number of years. I'm leverage trading assets that I understand better than those alts on Bybit. And okay, I took a pretty aggressive 25x as a breakout trade on both those assets, and that's paid off for me. I'm doing better leverage trading assets I know than speculating on alts where someone's play with this or even if sometimes when the chart looks good, because there's no liquidity, you get a whale pulling the plug on you. No chart can tell you that's coming, and you're screwed. So my strategy right now is I'm cycling out of the real low caps, especially ones I've done well in, moving into Bitcoin, Ethereum, leverage trading those, and taking spot positions in the sort of some of the better ones in the top 20, top 30. That's my current play. I hope that kind of addresses your question, Jessie.
Yeah, that's good advice, Sean. And I've been weighing up the same scenarios myself. I've moved a lot of my profits either into bigger cap plays that I think have a lot of longevity still, or I'm moving into Bitcoin. So trading alts to get more Bitcoin is really the name of the game for me. And, BTC pairings are really difficult at the moment when Bitcoin's movement. So that's where the dominance chart, if you do not want to be in a BTC pairing when Bitcoin takes off, that is just a disaster. So you need to be really careful with those pairs as well. But yeah, it's definitely you need to know your personality, what your goals are, what your timeframes are, and yeah, low caps are wonderful. I mean, somebody I know recently checked an old wallet, and it had turned into a lot of money. So that's really fun when that happens, but it means it was capital that you didn't rely on. So taking the risk out is a really great idea.
Yeah, one of my best trades was finding an old Binance account from 2016 that had a minuscule amount of BTC in it from back then, which bang.
Nice. Yes.
That was a nice little win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one other thing I'd love to get your comments on is, talking to some newbies, another thing that I sort of said to these people was, I think, with what we're seeing now, we are seeing some real innovation. It's not like those ICOs of 2017, which were ideas. There's stuff that's been around for a while now. We're actually starting to see some realistic use case out of a lot of these projects. And I think it's important to, really find something that you fundamentally believe is going to win. And then, for me, I'm sort of swing trading those projects that I think they do have a future. So I would put something like a Kusama in that category for me. While it's still, in my opinion, somewhat of an experiment, I think it's got a good chance, and I'm really doing my best to understand the fundamentals. But I'm looking at the TA and I'm swing trading a project I like. So really trying to become sort of quite proficient from a fundamental point of view and what these projects actually do. I'd maybe put DSLA in that category, Jesse. And then, combining that sort of fundamental analysis with the TA is really how I approach this market. I try not to have, anything more than sort of 10 coins on the go at any time. And as I say, just increasing that BTC and ETH position and leverage trading it, swing trading it is my strategy. I mean, Leanne, to what degree do you sort of get into fundamentals, or are you purely TA?
I'm pretty much a TA girl. I do have a couple of core positions in the exchange tokens, because that to me is a functional product. People need it. So that's a safe bet for me to hang on to some of those. So FTT.
I was talking to Jesse about this before you joined us, and basically what I was saying is I bought some BNB yesterday, and I owned that thing a long time ago. I also sold it a long time ago. I love the whole sort of decentralization that blockchain is bringing. So the centralized sort of plays here. But for me, BNB is impossible to ignore. If you look at the volume on there, it's 10 times that of Coinbase, which is just listed on the NASDAQ. And, I've got to be careful what I say here, but maybe, I guess the way I look at it is the casino always wins, so I like having some of that casino's tokens.
Yeah. I was actually rolling some profits recently. I had a little challenge for myself on Qcoin because I've stayed away from those low caps, as I said, but I actually just put a small amount of money on there and I flipped it into a larger amount of money, but I put it straight into the Qcoin, the KCS token. And it was money I was prepared to sit on and lose if I needed to. But I was, took off as well. And I then, with some more profits from that, I accumulated some BNB because I too, like you, I used to own it, stopped, had a little bit of dust for trading. But
you can't ignore it, can you?
Yeah. So, but FTT, I was actually accumulating under $28. So that was a nice one too. But yes, look, they're a functioning, working product. So yes, you cannot ignore that. But speculative plays on projects that are still yet to show us what they can actually do is a whole other story.
Yeah, those type of projects probably make up about 10-15% max of my portfolio. At the moment, I'm mainly in BTC, ETH, as I say. I leverage trade those on Bybit. I understand them fundamentally. I follow it every day, along with TA. I've made some pretty good calls there on Bybit. Others, Kusama, Matic. And we'd love to have you on one of our more technical shows, Leanne, to really look at, how this innovation on Ethereum is happening, because I think there's such a big opportunity there at this point in this whole blockchain evolution to understand the winners, to really get in there and actually use some of these projects. And it's a little bit terrifying trying to figure out how to go from layer 1 to layer 2, but once you've done that, it opens up this whole new world of being able to buy NFTs, to play the games and understand the whole play to earn area of blockchain, which is just growing exponentially. And if you're in there doing that, not only are you so often getting these airdrops, free tokens. Take YFI, for example. I mean, that was the first yield farming platform. They gave the token away, and that thing's worth over $30,000 now. You were just given that for actually getting in there and using these things. And I just see that happening literally on a daily basis. So, on our 1BTC and 32 ETH show, Stefano talks till he's blue in the face about getting in there, trying things. So often you are rewarded for that, and in these airdrops and these tokens. But now's the time to be experimenting a little bit.
Oh, I wish I was an airdrop gal, but I don't think I am. But anyway, I'll never say never.
Exactly. We'll get you on the show with the guys where it's very much a long form. We talk forever on this stuff, and it's for maybe a bit of a niche market at the moment, but that niche market has been doing really, really well by listening to those guys. So I think technical analysis combined with doing your research into these projects.
The one thing to keep in mind, though, about getting into these kind of whether it be staking or farming or finding a way to get yourself in on so you can catch up to an early airdrop, all these things, even getting into nodes. You make a good point where it's a good idea to get into these things, but the word you used about experimenting is something that people should keep in their mind as well, is that as opposed to buying like putting a few $100s into an altcoin and hoping it might go up and then selling it later, that's a good use of the word experimenting, right? But then when we're talking about staking or buying NFTs or getting into these kind of more, you got to just remember that it's more long term. especially when it costs gas prices to get in and to stake things and to claim things, and especially with yield farming. There's a whole lot of steps that kind of entrenches you into the system, which kind of just in itself means that you're going to have to, if you want to actually, gain something from it, it means you're going to be in there for a while, and it might take a bit more of investments in one way or another. So it's a bit of more of a long-term thing for some of these experiments. So if you are experimenting, you got to be willing to be able to pay for some things, and not just expect to be able to get out as soon as possible whenever you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%, Jesse. And I suppose I'd break it down into those three categories. There's investing, which I do. I've got a certain hodl stack of BTC and ETH, which aren't on Bybit. They're just put away. It's my retirement fund. Then obviously there's a trading stack, and then maybe that third category, when I say experimenting, that's getting onto a layer 2 where those gas fees are almost non-existent on Polygon using Matic, and playing around. You can get on there, you can buy NFTs, you can get involved in the games, and it's not costing you $20-$30 for everything you do. So it is that sort of learning curve for people coming in. You buy something, you leave it on Binance, you trade it a bit, then you understand, okay, maybe I should be staking this. Oh wow, I'm making a yield off this. And that sort of third stage, I guess, is really actually using stuff on the blockchain. And while I've been in the space for nearly 6 years, it's actually only this year, last 12 months, where I've started doing that. And it is intimidating. It really is. Yep. Even for people that have been in the space for a while, like myself, you're trying to move to a layer 2. And
to Jesse's point, the word experiment is very apt. It's playing around, seeing how things work. Do not play around with anything that you cannot afford to lose. It's all very basic risk management stuff. So, yeah.
I'm just going to put one caveat on that, because fiat for me is still an experiment. It hasn't been around for that long. It's in real trouble right now, people. We all know that. And for me, this is why I do separate BTC from the rest of the crypto world. It is now widely accepted as a store of value. The institutions are here for an anti-inflationary hedge. That's not changing in any great hurry. I really do view it as a clear category winner. It doesn't have a competitor. It's doing a pretty basic thing, and it's doing it well, and I think it'll continue to do that. So for me, that is almost like my piggy bank. And yes, I do leverage trade it, a percentage of it, but I kind of view it as my piggy bank. I view Ethereum as this really amazing experiment, which by the day to me looks like it may well just actually come off. And good God, if Ethereum does scale, price we currently see is going to be nothing compared to where that's heading. So for me, that's BTC, Ethereum are making up 2/3 of my stack. We don't get laughed out of the room like we did in 2016, 2017, though, do we, people? People want to talk to us now if you're in crypto.
Laughed out of the room.
It's here to stay. Oh, I lost a lot of friends. I'm that annoying guy that only wants to talk about Bitcoin.
Oh, no. Oh, Ethereum, I thought it was.
Yeah, but I think you're surrounded by crypto people where you are, aren't you, Leanne?
There's plenty of crypto people in Southeast Asia, that's for sure.
Do you have any regular friends as well, or are they all crypto people?
I have some regular friends that actually are starting to convert. So
yeah.
If I've converted my parents, then that says a lot. My mum and dad for a long time, and that they've been converted.
Jesse was actually my very first convert, and it didn't take much persuading.
Yeah, you went from a ranting lunatic to someone who had a good idea, in my opinion.
Now you can't get it up of me.
Yeah, how's it worked out for you, Jesse?
I guess it's okay.
Yeah, living the life, and the trading is access to, once you can nail something that works for you, it's access to living a life by your own design and spending time how you want to spend time. So that's the beauty of trading.
Amen.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty much a wrap for this episode. Thank you both very much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure again.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm doing my best to convince Leanne to do some trading shows, more sort of longer form with some other traders with us. So make sure you hit the like button and put some comments below. Join the Discord. There's links to Leanne's groups down there as well. Make sure you check those out. I had a look, and they well worth a look, people. And if you are a trader, an experienced trader, and you're using platforms like Bybit, please use our link. It's a way you can support the channel. Only if you're an experienced trader. Okay, any parting comments from you, Jesse, before we wrap it up?
No, other than, tread carefully and have fun.
Stay patient.
Very good. And taking us out this week, what was your friend's name?
Eros.
With
my love letters.
Eros,
the beautiful Eros. His Twitter handle will be below also, but yes, he might feature for my love letters more regularly.
Okay, we'll see you all in the next few days. People will be back here live tomorrow for our Axie show with the guys, and taking us out this week, Eros.
You can't hurry, love. You just have to wait. Love don't come easy. It's a game of gas and gray. You can't hurry, love. You just have to wait and trust 2.0 upgrade. No matter how long it takes. Ooh, ooh, ooh. We need Eve.